National parliaments have more say in European affairs with the Lisbon Treaty. They are now entitled to give their opinion on decisions which will affect all the European Union member states. We're here at the Parliament in Stockholm.
The national parliament will gain more with the Lisbon Treaty than without, because now we will have the subsidiarity check, and that means that the national parliament can say no to different proposals coming from the commissions, and that is something we didn't have before.
This new role for the national parliaments was added to make up for the impression there was a democratic deficit, that European decisions were taken at a distance from the bloc's citizens. A veteran Europe watcher tells us how long this has been going on.
The
national parliaments are frustrated since for 60 years of the European integration project they've been kept on the sidelines, to the advantage of the European executives, governments, which is to say the European Council. The European Parliament is not a satisfactory compensation for them. Good relations between the European and national parliaments is desired but not evident. They sometimes compete.
Sharing, exchange and diversity are all considered significant.
I don't want a complete union with one parliament sitting in Brussels, and that's the only connection between the voters and the elected. I think the national parliament is very, very important in the democratic process.
The national parliaments are accorded 8 weeks in which they may say if they think a certain piece of European legislation would best be dealt with at national level. They can definitely put the brakes on.
We will discuss this piece of legislation that comes from EU, from the Commission, and we'll say, stop, this will be on national legislation. We will keep this legislation, we will decide on it. When it comes to criminal legislation, for instance, I am personally very interested in trafficking, and we will see how these rules will work, because especially in Sweden we are far advanced in this legislation, and I think we will be very eager to see that this legislation will not be diminished in EU.
I think people around Europe, they are friends of their own parliament. So I think when we are putting questions away to Brussels, it's less democracy. So I think it's very, very important to keep it. When we can keep the legislation, lots of decisions in our countries. If we are going to make a cooperation with the other parliaments, we must change rules, we must change agenda.
When the European Commission puts forward a proposal, it communicates this formally to all the national parliaments. Any of these may address a letter to the Commission, Parliament and Council saying this item should not be handled by the European institutions. A national parliament can also ask its government to take the matter to the European Court of Justice, if it comes to that. If overused, this recourse would see a stack of objections fill the court's in-tray.
We are not used to that political culture yet. So we are more used to that we have the power in the national parliament and here we can decide. Now we have to perhaps go to the European Court to claim our rights.
Of course, national parliaments are required to do more to get the ball rolling or stop it than just snapping their fingers.
These requests to the Court of Justice are presented by the states. The state has to agree with its parliament, a branch of the parliament. The national parliament needs the state's power to take its side. That doesn't happen every day. It would have to be under very motivating conditions. It's a sort of warning to the Commission not to go too far in the process of integration.
À la Commission de ne pas aller trop loin au niveau du processus d'intégration.
When at least a third of the national parliaments, which is to say 8 of them, contest the legitimacy of an EU proposal, the Commission has to go back to the drawing board. When half, or let's say 14 of the national parliaments oppose it, the Commission needs to submit a new proposal. The European institutions are therefore no longer alone in the elaboration of EU legislation. The European Parliament, therefore, not only has to monitor the Commission, but also see to it that the whole system doesn't get choked up by hostile national parliaments.
National parliaments under the Lisbon Treaty will have an opportunity to issue what are called orange or yellow cards to say, look, this is an interesting proposal that the Commission has made, but actually we don't think this is something Europe should be doing. If 8 national parliaments raise this issue, you can't simply dismiss them and say we're going to deal with this at the European level anyway. We really have to look into the detail. We really have to give a clear assessment. And it's not just about subsidiarity, which is about the appropriate level. There's also, I hate to use the jargon, but also about proportionality.
The rejection of a decision by the Commission will require the endorsement of the European Parliament and the Council.
Ich glaube nicht, dass das eine schlechte Sache ist. Wir können es auch nur stoppen, wenn der Rat
I think it's a good tool,
mit dem zustimmt.
but a given proposal could only be rejected when it gets to the Council and Parliament.
Sie können zum Gerichtshof gehen, nicht wenn Ihnen etwas nicht passt.
But it's good that it's not only the government, but also the national parliaments who can take this initiative.
Und dann finde ich es richtig, dass dieses Recht nicht nur bei den nationalen Regierungen liegt, sondern auch bei den nationalen Parlamenten.
And, of course, the European Parliament will be expected to take care that it does not stoke discord with the national parliaments.
Of course, I hope they will be constructive and forward-looking and doing their part and their contribution to a better Europe, to a better life of our people, for peace, for climate protection, for fight against criminality, all these big issues that we have on the agenda. And I have no doubt that citizen chambers on a national level and the citizen chamber of the European level, that we are working together and not against each other.
In addition to this new power for national parliaments, the Lisbon Treaty also allows ordinary citizens to instigate EU policy.
It's a very important point, the Citizens' Initiative, which will enable 1 million of them to petition the Commission and therefore be the initiators of European rules. It's really something new and really very, very exciting. And I think it's going to build this into a Europe of the people.
The European Parliament intends to develop in constructive partnership. Under the new Lisbon Treaty rules, the ways the European Parliament works will be adapted to take into account increasing interaction with the national parliaments.